The Children's Bill of Rights in Sports is a resource that organizations can use to improve program quality and position themselves as child-centered providers. But how to do that? In a few minutes, we'll hear from a couple of organizations that are using the Bill of Rights framework to review and improve their delivery of youth programs on the ground. But first, let's talk with the CEO of a national governing body that has already gone down this path. Li Leung was hired by USA Gymnastics in 2019 on the heels of the Larry Nassar sexual abuse scandal that harmed scores of gymnasts and drove the federation into bankruptcy. Many are still upset with the actions or inactions of the federation that led to the problems. Leung was brought in to clean up things. One of the moves the former NBA vice president made was to create in December of last year an athlete bill of rights that articulated for the first time the minimum conditions under which all U.S. gymnasts should be treated. Like the Children's Bill of Rights, it identifies 8 rights, most of which are similar in principle, just worded a little bit differently. Li, welcome. What is the Bill of Rights and how did it come to be?
Well, the Bill of Rights is essentially a bit of a constitutional document in terms of a North Star, as you had mentioned, as to how we feel athletes should be treated by all of our community members. And it's about the right to participate in an environment that is safe for them. It's about training, competing safely. It's about organizations like us and the community around them acting with integrity and treating the athletes with respect. It's about saying that, they have the right to proper instruction as well in terms of coaches that are knowledgeable. And so, yes, it's quite similar to the Children's Bill of Rights that you guys had put out earlier this year.
It was developed with your athletes' council, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. So we did launch it in December of 2020, as you had mentioned, and we did develop it with our athletes' council. We thought it was really important that athlete input was a part of it, because that's actually one of the core tenets of the Bill of Rights as well, is that the voices of the athletes should be respected, should be heard, should be listened and then acted upon. And so we wanted to make sure that athletes were a part of the process from the beginning. We worked closely with them to develop this and to make sure that they had input throughout the process.
Mm-hmm. So 8 rights, they're all articulated, and we'll show folks that in the chat. But at the end of the day, what is the value of this thing? What do you hope it achieves?
Well, we hope that it achieves in terms of top of mind from our community standpoint, that that we become much more athlete-centric as an organization and as a community. And we hope that our athletes feel that they are provided a safe environment from coaches, from club owners, from administrators, all the volunteers who are involved in the sport of gymnastics. And we hope that they feel that they have a voice in matters that affect them. We want to make sure that if they do voice an issue that they see, that they're not retaliated against. And I'm hoping that this Bill of Rights does that.
Yeah. How do we know this isn't just a PR exercise in service of an embattled NGB?
This is just one step of many that we have been taking in terms of trying to provide the safest environment possible for our athletes. Now, as you mentioned, I took this organization over in March of 2019. And since then, we are an organization that has new people, that has new policies, that has new priorities. And one of which is we have created a whole new mission statement, which is really focused on the holistic development of the athlete. So it's not just about, we're no longer about just the technical development of an athlete in the gym. We're really much more about holistically developing our athletes to best set them up for life, even beyond the sport as well. And so the Athlete Bill of Rights, as I mentioned, is just one step within many to ensure that we are providing the safest environment possible for our athletes.
What if someone violates one of the provisions in the Bill of Rights? I mean, who do they report the violations to, and are there enforcement mechanisms?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we wrote this Bill of Rights, one of the most important things was to make sure that it could be enforced to some extent, because what you don't want is that you write a document, you write a policy, and it's not enforceable. One of the most important things is that it is enforceable, and so it's got some teeth to it as well. And so when we were writing this policy, we wanted to make sure that all of the 8 tenets actually are drawn back or connected to a part of our code of ethical conduct. And so we codified this Bill of Rights within the Code of Conduct. So you'll see the Bill of Rights written into our Code of Ethical Conduct. And then in addition to that, like I said, we want to make sure that each of the 8 tenets can somehow be enforced within the Ethical Conduct Code. And in terms of just like a resolution, if there's an issue that the Bill of Rights is being violated, because it's tied to something within or clause within the code, that can be taken care of, reported to our Ethics and Grievance Committee, and then that grievance can be heard through that committee.
Mm-hmm. Could you do more to promote the Bill of Rights? I mean, I'll be honest with you, we didn't know anything about it until after our drafting committee for our own Children's Bill of Rights got started on our work, and maybe that was our miss. Maybe we didn't see the news last December when you released it and put out a very good video. But I mean, what are your plans around promoting it and making sure that the entire gymnastics community knows that this thing is real?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I mean, our obligation in terms of communication to, as well as when the Bill of Rights was drafted, is to send it out to our community basis. And so when we did launch it in December, and as you mentioned the video, which hopefully we'll put a link in the chat to the video, is that we wanted to make sure that our community, first and foremost, that they were the ones who were seeing the Bill of Rights and really understanding the importance of it, and how to make sure that it is indeed enforced. And so, could we be doing more? Probably around that, in terms of beyond our community of gymnastics members. And so I think going forward, what we can do is push it out to the wider community outside of the USA Gymnastics membership base.
Mm-hmm. There are countries where Olympic committees don't even fund elite gymnastics for youth, only grassroots, like community-based recreational stuff, because they believe the training that's required to get to the Olympic level, to get the top, violates or too easily violates the rights of children. Too much, too soon, and then it lends itself to abuse. So if the gymnastics community can't respond to the Bill of Rights and really make this the culture of gymnastics in this country, should elite gymnastics even be supported?
No, I think it's a really interesting question from a philosophical standpoint. And the answer from my side is yes, I absolutely believe that elite gymnastics should be supported. And if you ask our gymnasts who do reach the elite level, if they feel that they should be supported, there's no question that they would 100% say that's the case. I think it's also important to note that what we're seeing is a little bit of a shift within elite gymnastics in terms of the Olympic team that we just had recently compete in Tokyo. They're one of the oldest teams competing. And so we are seeing a shift that the length of a gymnastics career, it looks like it is lengthening, and reason for that, I believe, is the fact that the training is becoming more long-term and more sustainable from a physical standpoint. So there's no question in my mind that I feel elite gymnastics should be supported.
Gotcha. And finally, you've gone through this process. Any advice that you may have for other NGBs or just any sport organizations, national or otherwise, that may want to think about how to embed and implement a Bill of Rights for children?
Yeah, so a few pieces of advice. One is, I know I've spoken with some NGBs about this already, and it seems that there's this perception that it's a bit of a daunting process. And so I would say, having gone through it, it's probably not as daunting as people believe it to be. It is a way that, the Bill of Rights essentially is a way that all organizations should be treating their athletes. And so I don't think there should be a fear in putting together a document that basically is saying, hey, the community should be treating the athlete with respect and providing a safe environment for them. I do believe including the athletes council or a group of athletes at the beginning is really important, because at the end of the day, this is their Bill of Rights. And as I said before, that the voice of the athlete is one of the core tenets of the Bill of Rights, and so I think it's crucial for their input to be in at the beginning. And as you were talking earlier, when we were talking about enforcing it, just to make sure, I believe it has to be codified somewhere, and it should be written in a way that is enforceable, that's tied back to some sort of policy with the sporting organization.
Great. Well, Li, thank you for your time, and best of luck on this. I mean, gymnastics is an extraordinary sport, the physical literacy, all the wonderful things that children can derive, boys and girls, from being engaged in the sport. So best of luck to you on improving the culture and getting it to a place where it really deserves the interests of kids and families in the fullest way possible.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate the time.
Okay, take care.